Hey Stencil fans, it's Patty with StudioR12 Stencils, and today we're gonna have a little fun. This is an easy project and it's a very simple project, but I'm gonna show you some basics and I'm gonna show you how to finish at the end so that you know how to really take it all the way across the finish line. And then I'm gonna show you how to use tile stencils, banding stencils, and then how to space things out on around things. So it's basic, but there's some neat things to learn. So stay tuned and we'll get right to it. All right, guys, let's get started. I want to show you some basics today. These basics are going to be things, so a lot of people are insecure about how they stencil and about how to stencil, but you can do some things before you get started stenciling and then after you're done stenciling, and it will elevate your whole entire project. For years and years, I taught at trade shows and taught travel teaching across the country. People always read with their hands. They'll come up in your booth if you're selling at a craft show, they'll touch it first, and then they'll connect with the thing. When you give a gift, if it's finely done and it has a smoothness to it, people are gonna be in love with that and they're gonna want to hold it more. So like it really does matter how you prep your surface and how you finish. And then there's a lot of things to talk about with the different techniques we're going to do today too, but it is kind of a basic lesson today. But stay tuned to the end and see how I finish. I think you'll like that. Okay, I'm going to take my white paint. These are honey bottles, and there's a link below. We have an affiliate account with Amazon. We make a very tiny amount of money when you buy from that link, but it does help support, and it's just kind of more convenient for you. First lesson, let's talk about basing. Generally speaking, with basing, you want to go in a row like this. I'm using a dense foam sponge. And I'm gonna go straight, but I'm on a round surface, so what do I do about that? When I'm on my round, what I wanna do is first go around and not push really hard because I don't wanna make a great big giant mess around, and I made a little giant mess around there. I'll show you how to fix that. So you go around first and don't give it time to dry. Okay, so we're gonna go around, and then I'm going to pick up some more paint, and then I'm going to smooth out the roundness and get it straight. It's a really good idea to always have it either straight or straight. You don't want to be all cross-hatchy rigmarole because it will detract. Okay, so a smooth finish is what we want. So I'm just going to smooth that out, and then when I get near my edge, to avoid making messes, I sweep off the edge. I'd rather make a mess down here than make a mess on the edge of my board. I don't like cleaning up my own messes. Okay, so just keep going. If you do thin coats, this is super important, this is a pro tip. If you do thin coats, several thin coats will make it dry faster, it'll be less ridgy, and you'll have less cleanup to do. So we just go around the edges. Proper base coating of your surface is so important to know like the tricks to it. It's a simple thing. It seems like, you're just gonna roll it on. And you could use a roller, by the way. Rollers tend to give a little bit of a pebbly texture. And at the end, when I show you how I'm going to finish, I am going to roll on my finish, but I'm gonna show you the secret to rolling without getting pebbles. Okay, so we're gonna keep going, straighten it out. And then the next pro tip is about to come out as soon as I get this based. It's going to be all about the pro tips this time. So how many of you are new to stenciling? Super interested to hear about that. How did you find us? And then we're going to go around the bottom. And it helps if you put your hand on your hip. Actually, I think it helps a lot to stand when you're base coating. I really never would have thought about this platform. This was a kitchen island. And it's an IKEA kitchen island that we just put a big hard surface on. But it's very comfortable and it makes it way easier to get big long strokes and stuff like that. So I like to stand when I'm doing this. Small details I like to sit and paint, but the big details I like to stand. Okay, so got the first coat on. While this dries for a second, I'm gonna go ahead and plunk my brush in water. I do wanna show you about these brushes though. This is a cheap foam brush, and let's see, I'll go on here. See how that just kind of caves in at the tip? There's no resistance at all on that tip. It's just a floaty, floppy little thing. These brushes, put that in water. These brushes have some give to it. It doesn't flop over like this one does. So the reason for that is these are built differently. And I've dissected quite a few of these on camera, but I think it always makes a powerful lesson. So when you tear this one apart, can't get in there, they just have a little bit. So you can see why the tip floats is because this doesn't go all the way to the tip. And then this stick stops right when it goes to the foam. And if you look at these brushes, these are a very big piece of plastic that goes all the way to the end, and then the stick has been modified to show you, to make it skinnier in there and not to be a problem. So that is why these polyfoam brushes are way better, and I kind of enjoy taking them apart. Let's talk about giveaways today. So we are live today at noon, right? And then tonight we do a recast and we answer all your questions live. So any questions that you want to ask about what we're doing, ask away. And we have prizes because we always have to have prizes. So we're giving away 2 brush sets. We'll have drawings in the morning and the evening. You like, share, and comment, and that's how you get entered to win. Who's feeling lucky today? Put your hand up in the chat. And then we're doing a grand prize drawing, which is if you share pictures on our Facebook page of anything that you've stenciled, you get entries to win a $30 shopping spree. That's a pretty good one. And then you can, as well, if you, pardon me, if you post pictures of things that you've used our stencils with, then you get double the entries. So that's a really cool thing. So be bold and inspire other people. Let us know what you're painting. That is so empowering for us to see what you guys are painting. Okay, I'm gonna hit this with a blow dryer. I didn't quite tuck it dry. While I'm drying, if you want to go ahead and share where you're from and what the weather's doing, I'm sure it's doing something somewhere, right? It's always in Ohio. I blow dry on hot, always. Cool, just kind of, it just goes too slow. Now the secret, pro tip, are these sanding blocks. Okay, we've got one of these loaded. These are such wonderful tools. Anytime that you have to do distressing or antiquing or anything like that, you want a 60 grit, 100 grit, something really rough, and you put it in the sanding block and it gives you something to hang on to versus if you just have a little piece of sandpaper, it makes you, like, you get like a crimpy, like your hand just starts doing the claw, and it's terrible. Never throw away the ends and bits of your sandpaper. They are fabulous to use for all kinds of things. And then this one is loaded with 150 grit, I think. It's a very smooth. You can listen to that sound, and then listen to this. You can really tell the difference. Those are on a link down below. We'll link to that. Okay, so I've got this dried, and so here's my pro tip. Between your layers, now you've watched me do, if you haven't watched me do a lot of distressed projects, I don't take the time to do this step. I don't usually paint in very basic, straight one color with one color. That's not my style. I like to have movement in my background. However, this is super on trend. We've been to market this year, and it's an amazing trend. So this is the thing to do. Anyway, so if you're selling, listen to my words, this is a big trend. So what you're gonna do is in between your coats, if you want it to feel so good, then you give it just an ever so light sand, and it knocks back the texture that's on there, and it makes everything feel good. It also helps not to have a bunch of ridges on your project. If you don't have ridges, then when you put your stencil down, there's no place for that paint to escape under. So that's another key benefit to it, is that you make it a smoother painting base. Okay, so then we just go for a second coat. Sometimes white will base coat in 2 coats, and sometimes it will not. Notice I'm still keeping my lines in the same direction. By the time I get done with my 2 or 3 coats, and I've got another one prepped down here, so I won't keep going on this. By the time I get done though, I will have a bunch of overlapping straight lines, and that will make everything diffuse. Okay, so even if you're not like perfectly solid, it'll appear that way. If you applied this with a roller, and honestly, if I was doing, I'm talking to the craft show people here today a lot, because this is like work. This is the work part when you're getting ready for your project. If I was doing this, and I started out my painting life, started in Southern California, and I started doing a craft show the minute I painted my first piece. I just fell in love with painting. Failed art in high school, so just FYI, you don't have to have a degree. But I started doing shows, and the basing and the finishing and all of that were the hard work. If I was doing that, I would take my roller and I would roll, and then you put your roller in a plastic bag. These are the fold top ones, so they don't let air in because they'll roll tight. And that will preserve it, so you can go from piece to piece to piece to piece to piece. And that way you don't have to reload, you don't have to wash it out, you don't have to dry it, you don't have to do all that stuff. Okay, so get that coated. Nice thin coats. And then on to just one more note for, I'm just feeling the love for the craft show people today. When you're doing your booth, you know, what do they come in, 8 feet by something, I think. When you have your very first one, know that you will not sell everything. You will only ever sell half of what you bring to any show. It worked that way when I was selling patterns at trade shows. It worked that way when I was doing craft shows. When you put up a booth in a reselling thing, what do they call those, craft mart things? Know that if your booth gets 50% empty, people will stop looking at your stuff. So you just have to keep it full sells, and then you have to keep it rotated. And I think that's all I'm going to talk about with craft shows right now. All right, so I'm going to put this off to the side and let that dry. And I've got a dried one with schmutz on it. One thing that's super funny about white paint, I had this laying aside drying. Somebody walked by and needed, I always put the things over trash cans. So somebody needed the trash can. They picked it up and they left their thumbprint on my white paint. It picks up everything. If your hands are perfectly clean, it's still gonna put a mark on it. So just know that with white. That's one of the reasons I wanna show you how to finish this. If you don't have a good finish on this, the white's gonna pick up everything, and if you hang that on your door, you're gonna be sad because you won't be able to wipe it off. So give that a little sand. Okay, so tell us how you found us. When's the first time you watched our videos? We have so many videos. We've been working very hard to give you guys lots and lots of information. So I'm curious about when you found us, how you found us. Share with a friend. That's the love. Okay, we are gonna get started on the layout part of this. This is kind of a little PETA factor. It is just a pain. And, but we gotta do it. So this is how I do it. I think Lena did one of these, and by the way, her baby is growing so big. So she did one of these, she slapped the T-square on there, made a mark, and everything worked out fine. Does not work that way for me. So I'm gonna show you how to do it oops, I don't always have things work out my way. So I'm gonna take 2 pieces of wax paper. You can use parchment paper if you want to. I used tracing paper for the one that I did, this one right here. I'm gonna use some tape. I didn't like I used the green tape, and I didn't like the texture that gave it. I'm gonna use 3 pieces. This is an 18-inch surface. We have surfaces on our website, StudioR12.com. I want it bigger than the size of the piece that I'm doing. 3 pieces of tape. Okay, now I'm going to change positions. I'm going to put that on top, okay? Giving myself lots of encouragement, okay? All right, I don't know that my pen is going to write. Nope. So I'm going to use Carrie's Sharpie that I have promised on oath to give back to her when we're finished. So we're going to go around here and just make the mark so that you know exactly where you need to be. take that away. And then I do a little folding game. If you go from one side to the other and you line it up perfectly, and glass is not up there yet, you line that up perfectly, then you come down to the middle, and from the middle out, just make your fold. Okay, then we're gonna go up. You wanna be careful not to let this slide. If it slides, it won't be even, and then you'll be sad. Down to the middle, make your fold. Come up one more time, I'm holding it in place. Make your mark. Okay, and then we go, unfold it. And now we're gonna go in half the other direction because I need to know where center is. And I thought I would need to tape that and I didn't do it, so I'll get a tape now. I don't like how that's wiggling and pulling. And don't let it stretch when you're doing this, so probably best to do this piece first. Okay, so now fold it over one more time, keeping everybody uncranky, making sure my lines line up in the middle. Okay, bring it out and then bring it, oh, need to, you know what I may need? I just realized why this might be a better answer. And we're gonna see if I'm a true statement person or not. I don't know that my pencil's gonna stick. So the way that I got my graphite line on there, this pencil, and I don't think it will. Okay, so we need something with some tooth to it. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this out. This is a good idea if you have, transfer paper, those of you who have painted with patterns and stuff like that will have transfer paper. But if you don't have transfer paper, what you do is you use something with a little bit of tooth. You can use chalk or pencil on your lines, I'll show you how to do it, to get on light surface or dark surface. So this is great if you have transfer paper, not so good if you don't. And then you can use, this is a yellow tracing paper, it's like a drafting tool, but if you don't have the yellow, white works, any kind of thin paper that you can see through. So then what you do, and you can see why I didn't like this green tape, this was super clunky. So what I did is am I on the right side? Yes. I just took my pencil and I graphited the lines that I was gonna use. And then I graphited the middle so I could mark center, and then graphited those. Right, and then this is a very important step. If you're on white, remember white picks up everything. I once bought a cream color, which is really close to white, Sofa, when my children were like 3 and 6. Tragic. White picks up everything. So, but that will take the extra graphite off of your piece, and that will give you the ability to not smear all over your whiteboard. Now I want to see where my lines are going and get them straight. So I think I'm up and down like this. I'm gonna lay this and get it matched up. Need this, and we have T-squares in 2 sizes, and honestly, for the size that I paint in all the time, I probably need this big one. This is really more normal. But in this case today, I'm doing an 18-inch piece. This little 12-inch guy won't work. So I just wanted to show you, this is way more, just put it in here. It's accessible, in with your tools. This guy, you know, he's a beast. You gotta kind of hang him someplace. So we'll get like that. Get my glasses off my nose. Get lined up. Make sure you're lined up on all 4 sides. Okay, kind of flatten me out a little bit here. And then we lay the T-square on the line. Line it up. Sorry about my head in the way. you want to make a straight line. It's a lot of lining here. And then you just make your mark, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a hot second. Get this one done. The straight edge really makes a big difference. It really, 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 really makes a big difference. I'll show you where I messed it up in just a second. Then I'll just make a mark to show center and a mark to show center. Now we'll pull that back and see the magic. So now I have my traced lines. They're perfectly straight. I know exactly where I'm going to be putting things. Right here, when I took my pen originally and I started like, I was like a little drunken pen user or something. It was just goofy. So I just wandered all over, and I didn't want that. This is such a graphically straight piece. I didn't want any wobbly stuff. I didn't want to cover it up and fix it. Okay, so now we come over here, we get rid of that. I'm glad I kept it. And now we're going to do our layup. So this is a really good time to talk to you about what's behind us on the wall. These are our tile stencils. These tile stencils are, gosh, handcrafted with so much love. They make the most amazing patterns. I don't know why I did that. They make up the most amazing patterns. You can do them starting with corners that match here, here, and here, and they make a full mosaic pattern. Or you can turn it on another side and do it that way, and they'll make a different mosaic. So they'll make 4 different mosaic patterns for each one. You can use them scant and faint on the background. You can do varnish through them on your walls, on your floor, any of that stuff. I don't know if you guys have seen the tile trends at the home decor stores. It's all about graphic mosaic patterns on your floor. So you could hand paint your floor. You can paint right over the top of your linoleum, your tile, any of that stuff, and just make you a big old pattern out of these things. So what I want to show you on the back wall here. This one is done with, and the microphone doesn't pick up way back there, so I have to come back over here. So the brown one right here is STCL 5174, and that one right there, what I love about that is it is done in these just like wonderful rustic colors. You have to do this when you're going to lay it out in squares. You have to do that so that you mark, like I'm going to show you how to do here. So I'm going to show you some basics for that. And then the blue and white is one stencil. It's just done in different colors. How simple is that, right? That's STCL 2555. And I love those as like a wall hanging. You could put those in the bathroom, your kitchen, whatever. And then this half one is a big, big trend to paint on that. But we have so many cool wood shapes. We love making wood shapes. I was married to, my husband is a woodworker, and I'm still married to him, but he's super duper talented, and so we started way back in the day making special wood surfaces, and we've just kept with it for the last 30 years. He doesn't do that anymore, but somebody else does. And then this one is STCL 2553, and what's different and unique about this one are these raised letters. So this is such a great way to give dimension, and we just used, let me get those out here, I think they're in here, these little scrapbook foamy things, and they're just adhesive on both sides, and you just pop them under there. You can cut them to size if you want to. Super easy way, and then you can pop that word off and change it and be thankful for, Thanksgiving. You can be blessed for spring, whatever you want to do, and then change out your word. Okay, let's get started. One of the things with tile stencils, I just have to tell you about this. One of the things with tile stencils is if you don't mark which side you start on and you get flipped and turned around, it can be really hard to know which side to use again, and it's a little bit crazy. So I'm going to make sure that that's the side that we'll pull this guy over here. Oh, and we put a lovely green ribbon to hang that with, and what we did is we just stapled it to the back. And that's a really big thing that we've seen too, is a little bit more simplified. not so much ribbon and bow. I think it just depends on the season. And then we're painting on MDF boards. I have had my fire pit, which is our most popular stencil. I have had that outside my house for 4 years now, and it's in the rain where the gutters traipse on it. It's been freezing, snowy, cold, all the things, sun, and it's still going pretty strong. It's starting to get a little fadey, but I'm not sure I ever sealed it. So, okay, not that one. Get this so that we match. Okay, is this the right one? Okay, just this one's a different size. Okay, make sure that I'm doing what I think I'm doing right. Nope, that was the right way. Okay, I think we might need, let me see if I have the right one over here. Maybe I picked up the wrong stack. One of the things that we did, I think I did, I picked up the wrong stack. Let's go over here. And I think you're, nope. Thank you. This is the one I used yesterday. Nope, none of those are them. Okay, so what I did was I chose, and this is gonna be, I think, yeah, there we go. So I chose that pattern in that place. Now what I would do is I would just give it a little mark, not on my piece, and maybe I'll just put an X on there, just so that I know where I'm starting, okay? And then one thing that's weird, and it'll make me slightly sad, but I don't know that there's anything I get to do about it, is when you reverse it, and this has been drying overnight, so I might be okay, and I think I might actually start on the reverse side first so that it stays dry. When you reverse it and you put it down on your white surface, that can be a problem. So I took mine to the sink yesterday and scrubbed all the paint off and then dried it thoroughly with a paper towel, and then I flipped it over. I can't do that while I'm standing here talking to you, so I'm not going to, but I would wash it in between if I was on white. It just can leave a little scuff and a scumble, and white needs to look so clean, okay? All right, so I'm gonna start on my dirty side down, and I'm going to lay this out so that I can barely see this line and this line. And I'm gonna try not to rub it all over my background. Okay, so we're gonna get that lined up so I can barely see those lines, and then I'll line it up over here, barely see the line. Okay, and then we'll get our tape. All right, so where would you hang this? Who would you give this to if you were making gifts? Remembering that stencils are so much better than vinyl because they're reusable. We went and took a workshop at one point sometime, and it was a vinyl workshop, and my friend came and painted with us, and she made a mistake, and her board was, she did it crooked, and she took it off and realized that she'd made this mistake, and she paid for the thing, and she couldn't redo it because once you take the vinyl off, you're finished with it, you know. So, and of course they wouldn't recut her one and blah blah blah. If you were at home, you could recut another one, but then you're weeding it twice and all of that, and they peel up, and I think stencils are amazing. But remembering that they're durable, that you can wash them, you can use them hundreds of times as long as you don't bend them. Bending is the death of a stencil. But when you reuse them, you can paint this in, you know, baby colors for Melissa's bedroom. You know, you could do it in Navajo colors. You could do it in a Mexican, you know, colors, and make it be something that you hang out on your gate. Like, there's so many ways to use these. Okay, so coming back to our basics, we're gonna go over here, grab some paint, and then I'm gonna swirl like 15 times. If you have problems with bleeding under, it is not a broken stencil, it's not a broken brush, well, it might be a broken brush. The brush makes a big difference, but it's how much paint is on your brush. So make sure you always scumble off on your brush. Okay, we're gonna come over here. Just to get my edges well started, I'm gonna stipple over there. And I wanna be careful that I don't go outside of my edge. I can use my multi-masker, which is just this wonderful tool that has other tools. It has checks and circles, it has rulers, has places to mask squiggly things and places to mask straight. So I can take that multi-masker, I can lay it right there, and then I can be way rougher, way bigger movements. To get that started though, the stippling is gonna be the way. You wanna be careful if you're gonna touch near this, that you don't spread this wet paint onto your surface. When you're painting on white, you notice, I don't know, those of you who have seen me talk about painting before, I never talk about like worrying about using a dirty part of your stencil or anything like that. This is truly just a white project issue. So now I'm gonna start scumbling. Okay, go round and round. This was a trick that I found yesterday that worked really well for me. Let me find my little, had a little scrap coaster piece of wood. If you notice, Rusty, I don't know if you can get a close-up of this over here. When you have your stencil come over the edge, it like lifts up over the edge and it bubbles up. So to prevent that from happening and make it much easier, I'm gonna take a same size piece of wood and I'm gonna go under here and I'm gonna support that. And now I can hold this outside of my painting zone and it makes it way easier to keep everything flat. Okay, so we'll just give that a nice little scumble. With this style of painting, if you look here, this is super black, it's super dark based. You have to do multiple. I did 3 coats, and if you don't do thin coats, you're gonna glom, you're gonna build, and it's gonna be terrible. So you really do wanna be careful to keep them nice and thin. You can see how sheer this is, and that's from wiping off on that paper towel. Okay, so what is on your painting table today besides the cat? My cat, I don't know what it is with cats, but they have to be right in the middle of everything that you do. And we have a little copper colored kitty cat, and he gets on my husband's computer station and hits the keyboard with all the things and makes all of his work disappear. It's quite funny, except for the cussing that goes on. Okay, I'm gonna take this and blow dry. One of the things my son showed me the other day when he was painting some projects is if you, when you're doing layers of things especially, if you don't make the stencil warble a little bit when you're drying, it can stick to your paint and then peel the paint away. So if you're gonna do multiple coats, it's a good idea to make the stencil kind of move a little. Okay, then we'll go for round 2. I'm gonna show you how to match these up and do that piece right there, and then talk about how we do the banding stencil. I'm not gonna take you all the way through this. It's a lot of repetition to get both sides done, so I'm just gonna show you like the bottom side. Okay, and I don't know if you've noticed or not, but we put all of the timestamps in these videos. So when you go onto YouTube, you can go into the description below after you subscribe and ring the bell, and you can go down there and you can go to the part that you want to learn. So we make it super user-friendly. We have hundreds of videos. We don't charge for them. We just want you to be successful when you're painting and crafting and doing DIY. Okay, so we're gonna go get a second coat. Just scumbling, swirling. How many of you have swirled? Okay, so I don't even know where swirling came from. I don't remember learning it, but I definitely was a stippler where you pound, 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 pound. And swirling is magic. You gotta trust me on this one. Swirling is the bomb diggity. Okay, so you gotta become a swirler. Practice on some cardboard box. That way you don't have to be terrified of ruining something. And if you wreck something, base coat over it. Paint is the best eraser in the world, and especially if you're being careful about your layers and not making them too thick. Painting is the best eraser. You paint that door the wrong color green, paint it another color green, you know, just paint over it. We have a shop here in town and we painted our door orange. It's super pretty. And then 2 years later we thought, you know, we wanted it a little bit brighter. So we found a beautiful like fruit punch color and just painted right over the top of it. Looks fabulous. All right, gotta do the dryer. It's thin coats, but it's not that thin. You could have so much fun. I cannot wait to see what you guys are gonna do with all the tile stencils we have. And when we're looking at these, knowing that, like, this is the size on this one, and then this is the size on the ones behind my head. So we have them in all the sizes. They go all the way up. So we've got them in half circle. We've got them in everything. So we are there for you with all the titles. Dropped it on the floor. All the titles. Don't forget to like, share, and comment, and let us know what you love, what you're doing. Share with your painting groups. Okay, so I'm going to swirl one more time. This isn't as dark as I would want you to take it. I would probably do one more coat on this, but just for video completeness, I feel like I'm just going to stop after this one. I think that watching people dry paint is not very interesting. Okay, now you could just fast forward along if it wasn't in the live. So let's go get that. I think we're going to call it at that. Solid enough. Okay, I'm going to dry that. Okay, this is the time that you want to look for any kind of bleeding under that you might have done. And let's see if I've got a little bit right there. I try to sneak that stuff in so that it's like real life, you know, where you can really see. And we'll we call her Persephone. Bring her over here and see if I can dig out an eraser. I knew it was in there. Okay, so this is a Click Final PVC eraser. They just slide up and down like that. And while your paint is fresh, you can put your eraser in water. You can spit on it too, but that's not allowed these days. And then you can just go right next to your project and you can erase and take that right away. Any little warbles that you have. One more time. So that is a magic eraser right there, and it's not like the magic eraser you use in your bathroom. Okay, but anything that you have, got one more little one I gotta catch. Just gonna drive, it's gonna look at me and stare at me and it's gonna make me nuts. If I erased too much, like say I erased this tip right off of this thing right here, whoops. If you break your tip of your eraser, don't put out so much, you just want a short bit. But if I erased that right away, I could put my stencil right back on top and fix that, okay? And then what's neat about this is this doesn't, when it's dry, it doesn't touch your paint. So if I needed to erase like this chalk line, I could just erase that right away and it wouldn't affect my paint. Okay, so throw that away. And back to, I'm gonna hit this with a blow dryer because now both sides of my stencil is wet. So I want that dry, dry, dry. Okay. So now we'll come over here, take our tape off the other side. And we line it up. So what we want to do is we want to barely kiss the edge of what we've already painted. And don't have very many lines down this side. Barely, barely, barely. Okay, so get that lined up. And then you just repeat on this side. Put that where there's not paint. And go one more time. I'll do one coat on here to show you how this is done. Make sure you're like, sharing, and commenting. What's the best pro tip that you've seen today? Make sure if you need an apron, we have lovely aprons with our name on them. Got them in bright colors. My favorite is the purple one, but when I'm wearing cooler weather clothes, I tend not to wear those colors, and so I can't wait for fall when I can sneak that in. So I like having aprons that like coordinate with my clothes. Okay, so we'll do that. Get all the way over to the edge. Okay, I'm going to pull this away so you can see how it matches up. Okay, and that's what we've got going on there. Wipe that puppy away. Boy, somebody's going too fast. So one thing I will tell you, if you're getting bleeding, it can also be sometimes the speed that you're going. So if you notice I'm like going at it, trying to worry about like how long I'm taking, you know, painting on camera and making paint dry and all that. So I'm trying to kind of be industrious. When you do that, you use a lot of force, and it forces your paint underneath your stencil. Now the dome brush is perfect for solving that because, let me get a clean one, because it's cut in all the shapes like that, and so it doesn't push the paint out underneath your stencil. But when I'm shoving my paint and hurrying, I'm shoving it under. So a little more time on the paper towel, a little bit more slow, and I'm gonna be fine. Okay, so now I'm gonna talk about the words in the middle and the banding. I think I'm gonna show you the banding, I'm gonna talk about the words. I want one more word. Hello, may I have a word? Hello is probably the biggest welcome statement that we've seen. These are fabulous on, if you go to IKEA, they sell blank mats. You can do your own. Oh, wouldn't this be so good? To do that on a welcome mat and do, oh, that's awesome. Just thought of that. You can also, on the welcome mats, you can stencil on them, and we've got a video on that. We'll link that down below. You can stencil on them and stipple and do the thing. But if you use I think the product is like a rubberized black spray paint, and you mask all the way around it so that you don't get any overspray on your mat, then it like sticks better to the mat. The other ones will wear out after a year or two, but the rubberized black stuff sticks for a really long time, so that's a good way to do it. But you could totally do this whole technique using a entry mat. Okay, so with these words, we've got this hello and we've got this hello, okay? We've got a couple others as well, but you just center it on there, and this is exactly the 18 inches, so I can center it and make sure that I'm even on here, and then when I get it where I want it, I can go ahead and do the stencil as well. I can choose whichever kind of word I want. It could be faith, believe, you know, whatever, harvest, any word. I could also use one of our word cutouts and put that on there. And I thought of that like the minute I stood up here, and I was like, oh, I should have done that. So I think I would do the cutout. I think that would be super cute. Okay, so now we are going to talk about the banding stencil. Before I talk about the banding stencil, I want to talk about storage of stencils. Obviously, you can use these tile stencils over and over and over again. Okay, you can use banding stencils over and over again. And by the way, on the banding stencils, so we call this kind of wiggle, we call these finger traps. And if a bridge is too floppy, we make it not be a finger trap. On the banding stencils, we sell them bigger, and they're good, but you have to use an adhesive on the back for them not to be really wiggly, because then they become like a whole arm trap. So we don't want to bridge them because that negates the purpose of the banding stencil, but you do have to use an adhesive on the back if you do that. So just FYI. Okay, storage of stencils. So with the banding stencil, yesterday when I was getting ready for our project, I came in here, pulled out our pile of stuff. These are disc ring binder discs, and they hold your stencils in a book. So I could come here and I could just shop for whatever I needed, and just find what I need and pull it out. And the way that you do that, this is one of those affiliate links. The way that you do that is you use this punch. You pick the size that's bridged the biggest, and you go in the middle where you like it, and you just punch it. And it makes this lovely pin dot little detail that you then fit into on the discs. And what I love is how strong it is. Like, that's a lot of weight of stencils. That's probably 20 stencils. And this little bit with those little holes is holding that up. That's amazing. And what I also love about those is we've made, you guys have, if you've been here before, you've seen these before. We've made several books of stencils. You can stack these easily. And so they're super easy to store. You can just stack them and color code them if you want to, and they're amazing. The other way that we store our stencils is on these curtain wires back here. So what happens here, we mounted it upside down underneath, and then you can just store a ton of stencils. And this is super duper taut. So that is a fabulous way as well. I love, you could put, you know, like cards or something like that that say, like, these are your word stencils, these are your pattern stencils, and stuff like that. So now I'm going to come on here and show you the final step, and then we're going to show you how to finish. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to find the one that's the size of that band or bigger. I'm going to go slightly bigger, which is number 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to tape on either side. Okay. And then I'm going to tape on the other side. And that makes it pre-masked. And it makes it slightly sticky. So I've kind of given myself a little adhesive edge to things. I'm going to need another brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here, slightly be able to see what I've done. Oops, I'm going down below. I actually did it lower. Okay. And press that down. And then I'll be able to make perfectly straight bands on here. I'll just stipple. Stippling when you are, I'll swoosh right there. Stippling when you're trying to fill in dark stuff makes your paint apply darker. So I prefer to stipple when I'm using a banding stencil. Also, if you're swirling, you can scooch those loose ends, and that makes it more difficult. And that is how you apply a nice even band. Okay, and I want to show you on here, and now we'll get to the finishing. Okay, so we've got our ribbon out here. I'm gonna make sure I'm nice and even. So see how that band looks here? I've just completed the line, and it helped it anchor a little bit more. All right, so we're gonna take that away. We're gonna get out our varnish. We're gonna use a matte varnish. Weird things happen to shiny things in the sun. So if I'm putting this on my porch, which you don't have to put it on your porch, but if I'm putting it on my porch and I do varnish that's shiny, then what happens is the sun reflects and you can't see the art. Okay, so that is like, then it negates having the art there at all. And also with varnish, it's very important that you shake it, because there is a dulling medium that sits in the bottom of the jar of varnish. And if you don't shake that up, and people worry about bubbles and stuff, but with the roller I'm gonna use, it's all gonna be fine. I have to do a little sanding on that, but you shake it up just a little bit. Put out your varnish, no bubble problem. Want enough to do, I see some bubbles, but it's not gonna be a problem in a minute. I'm gonna need my paper towel, put that out there, and my sander. Okay, so with this, I just want to sand the raised bits off. I recommend sanding over anything that you paint, because it, if you knock down the edges of the stenciling, the little ridges, then it doesn't make it feel like it's a stenciled project. And then we have amazing bridgers. We have people whose job it is to actually bridge, and they do such a beautiful artistic bridging with our projects that years ago when I first started stenciling, my son Joe was editing my videos, and he said, Mom, why didn't you go back and fill in the bridges? Because I used to like harp about that. And I said, well, I don't know. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, they're doing such a good job of bridging that you don't feel like you have to go back. It actually looks like it's part of the artwork. So I saved me a whole step then. And take our roller, and this is a dense foam roller. There's a link for that. We're gonna roll it in this varnish nice and evenly, get it worked in there just a little bit. And this is how, so if you've ever tried to varnish a big piece like this, and you're using, say, an oval glaze, which I don't think we have in here, it's about 1 inch wide, you can move quickly, but when you varnish with a brush and it starts to dry, you start getting these like weird pulley streaks, and they're very yucky to look at. Okay, so before I talk this dry, we're gonna get going. So I'm just gonna roll. And the secret to good rolling, and I will go around a little bit of the circle. The secret to good rolling and the way that you avoid these bubbles, you're gonna have to listen for it. You roll until your roller sings. And you can kind of hear it whistling a little bit. And you can hear it dull down over here. You hear the singing? Okay, it's just a soft little whistly. Get that worked in. But you keep going until it starts talking back to you. Okay. And this is how you are going to have the most yummy, delicious finish on this that people will not be able, I've got one more secret that people will not be able to resist. Okay, and I'll go all the way across. Now what you'll do next, you can stop at any stage of this. What you do next is you wait for this to dry thoroughly, and then you sand it again lightly. Okay, we're gonna let that whistle. You hear it singing? Okay, it's not a very pretty song. I've got a brush hair in there. Get those before it dries. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. Then you go in with your sanding paper. I am going to put this in my bag. Now this is what is magic. I can put this in here and take it out and varnish again in a week. As long as I put all of that plastic around it, because paint and these mediums are oxidative. That means that the oxygen in the air oxidizes the medium that is in the paint, and that makes it dry. So let me show you this final step because I think this is important and I want you to know about it. Getting there. Okay, so you would sand ever so lightly. Okay, just knock anything back that's on there. And then the final magic step, if I was gonna hang this outside, I'd do 2 or 3 coats of that varnish like that. And the final step is wax. Now it seems like you put wax on this and you put it outside in the sun, it's gonna be a problem. But when wax dries, it's one of the hardest surface finishes that you can get. So what you do is you take your paper towel, this is your fancy applicator, and then you smear your wax on it. And what this does to your surface, pure magic. It just makes it like feel like butter. It makes it rich. When you put 2 or 3 coats of varnish, polyurethane on, the sunlight actually can get in there and refract within your varnish levels, and that makes your project look deeper. So when you do these fine finishing pieces, it really takes your project to a new level, and you are going to get so many compliments on your work. Okay, so you just wipe that on there. Make sure you wipe off the excess. And that is how you do the most amazing finish. I hope you guys have learned amazing things today. I hope that you share your projects with us, and I can't wait to see what you're doing. Have a great day.